Hello, Bashar. This is Christian from Germany, and I have a question concerning your relationship to the all that is. I would like to know if you people, if you have any acts or any expressions of your relationship. So, do you have ceremonies or celebrations, or do you have any symbols or acts of gratitude, or how do you express and live your relationship to the all that is? Thank you.
Again, we allow ourselves to be our true selves, true representations of the individual expressions of all that is that we are. That is how we honor the idea of all that is, by being the most true reflection of the individual uniqueness that each of us expresses, which then creates total harmony in our civilization. An ancient word that expresses our connection to all that is Shakana, the highest exalted light, living light, because everything is made of living light. So Shakana is the highest exalted light that represents the collection of all that is and all the unique individual expressions and reflections of it. We can create spontaneous celebrations on an individual or collective level, but we simply allow those to happen synchronistically, since we operate on pure synchronism in our society. Everything comes together exactly in perfect timing when it needs to express whatever it is excited or passionate to express. And sometimes that may look like a celebration of certain things, but it happens automatically. Nothing is planned.
Hi,
Good
Bashar.
day. Good day. Good day.
How are you?
Perfect. And you?
I am well, thank you.
All right. What would you like to discuss this day?
Well, on Saturday, March 4th in our time, the patriarch of my father's family line, his eldest brother, transitioned.
Yes.
And the next day was my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And happy transition day.
Yes, to him as well. He lived a grand, important, very decided life.
Physical life, because he is still alive.
Yes.
All right.
Incarnation. He lived a very bold incarnation.
All right.
Just wondering if there was some message in him deciding to transition the day before I decided to be born.
Well, again, it's a reminder that transition is a different kind of birth, a rebirth back into the idea of your natural state. And anyone that transitions, especially so close to the idea of another date that represents the idea of the starting of a journey, reminds you that you can now uplift and raise your vibration, connect more strongly through him to spirit, reaching out to him, reconnecting in a different way now to start a different level, a new birthday for you, a new level of connection, a new level of understanding and experience in your physical life. So whatever it is you learned from that individual, carry forth, be bold, live your life in a grand way, if that is what is represented by this individual to you, but on a new level, a new scale, a new vibrational frequency that will carry you forward with more momentum toward your understanding and expression of your spiritual nature in physical terms.
Okay.
You understand?
Okay. Yes.
All right.
I appreciate that description. Because actually I've been noticing more signs of the multi-dimensionality, in the sense that I've gone to places and had conversations with people about things that they remember fundamentally differently. Like an easy example is I went to a timeshare in San Francisco that I go to often, where I've always entered through a certain door. And this time I was confused when I went because that door wasn't open. And so I went into a different door. I'm realizing I'm saying doors now a lot. As when I was speaking to the concierge, I told him I didn't recognize the place at first because I had always entered through the other door. And he made a funny joke alluding that I must have been on LSD because that other door was never open for that purpose.
There you go. And of course, there is no accident in that this is called a time share.
Haha. I never thought about that.
Oh, now you can.
Thank you. Speaking of time,
Yes.
I'm going to say this in my own language, but you once said that pi is the numerical representation of different dimensions and how they're constantly shifting.
Yes.
And so, what is the fine structure constant? What's the numerical representation? What's that the numerical representation of?
One moment. This information is not forthcoming through this terminal at this time.
Okay, thank you. Is every, I guess, in time incarnation extension from the oversoul? Sorry, I said that strangely. Every extension from the oversoul that is incarnate, let's say in the same time as you, is that considered a counterpart?
The same time as yourself?
Yes.
That is what we typically refer to as a counterpart, yes.
And so there's no other types of extensions from oversouls that can be incarnate at the same time as you, like they wouldn't be called anything else, I guess is what I'm asking.
You can make up whatever name you wish, but we typically refer to them as counterparts if they overlap your time frame.
Okay. And you've said previously they can be strangers, enemies, family members, friend, anything, obviously, right?
Yes, absolutely. It depends upon what the oversoul needs to experience by creating that extension in a incarnation.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to have necessarily any meaning for you at all, or it could have profound meaning for you. It just depends on what it is that's being investigated by that particular extension, by that particular counterpart.
Okay. And if it has profound meaning, then how much of that meaning for us is relevant to the connection to the oversoul? You know, like if something is important to me, if I've connected to a counterpart and that's important to me to express in a neutral and positive way and to have an experience of that nature,
then it's important for the oversoul to have had that experience where the counterparts interact in that way.
Okay. And where they don't?
Then that's also simply relevant or not relevant for the oversoul.
Relevant or not relevant?
Well, in other words, if they don't interact at all, obviously there is no relevance for them to do so as far as those particular extensions are concerned.
Yes. I'm saying where they interact and the experience is negative.
That can still be very relevant for the oversoul.
And if me as an extension would rather have a neutral or positive experience from what has previously been a negative experience with a counterpart, do I have that influence?
You find relevance as an individual, and when you find relevance as an individual, then there is relevance for the oversoul as well. It's not excluding anything, it's including everything. So the idea of relevance for the oversoul is also relevance for you as an individual soul.
Okay.
Otherwise, it wouldn't happen to you. It would be relevant for some other extension. But if it happens to you, it's not only relevant for the oversoul, but it's relevant for your individual experience as well. Otherwise, it would happen to another extension.
And then naturally, if it persists in being relevant to me in terms of my like core signature or my nature, then it would just naturally or sustainably persist of its own accord, me being myself, them being themselves.
Yes, unless you change your mind about whether or not you wish it to continue.
It's my choice.
It is your choice. That doesn't necessarily mean that you haven't set it up as something that you really do need to do. I'm just saying you always have the option to discount it or dismiss it. That doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't pay attention to it. I'm just saying you always have the option. Then whatever the result of that particular choice is, will be something that you will also experience that will be relevant for you.
I see. Well, I would like to share in, closing more or less that what I've learned from this counterpart, loving them and learning what love is with them through what has been a spectrum of polarity, but negative, neutral, and positive, is that I used to think that unconditional love was determined by how much you love. But what I learned from and with this person is that unconditional love is more determined by the conditions. Because if the love can't survive the conditions, then it isn't unconditional.
Yes. The idea of unconditional love is simply the frequency of existence itself, and sometimes has very little to do with human expressions that are recognized or called love. So the idea is to understand that it's a state of being that is pure unto itself, that allows for a compassionate relationship to exist in an observational way, regardless of what the actual human interactions have to do with. So it's kind of on two different levels. You can have the unconditional love, which is the pure state of being of compassion and recognition and allowance, while at the same time allowing yourself to recognize that you may have set yourself up for certain conditions and terms and experiences that are not necessarily always expressed through unconditional love, but could be.
Okay. And ultimately presented with this so that you decide what you prefer.
Yes.
Got it. The game is endless.
Yes,
That made me
absolutely.
tear up. So thank you, Bashar.
You are welcome. Thank you. Aveo.
Aveo.